Well, it's the weather for it. We're here at the Portico Library, sweltering and hot. Are you two nice and hot?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm wonderful.
Lovely.
I need to keep out the sun.
Keep out the sun.
And I'm in the
because here at the Portico Library, it's the Whitehead Files, and it is the Windrush 75th anniversary special.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I've got two unruly guests. So I'll introduce myself. My name's Caroline Whitehead. I'm one of the trustees for the Portico Library. I'm also chair of the Public Programming Committee, as well as co-founder, managing director of the Zebra Partnership.
Oh.
To my right.
Oh, I thought you were still introducing yourself.
To my right, honestly, so rude. To my right is Kevin Dalton-Johnson.
Oh, very distinguished.
Yes, very distinguished. And he is my fellow trustee. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
So it's Kevin Dalton-Johnson, soon to be, or hopefully, January, Dr. Dalton-Johnson.
Yeah!
Oh!
Okay. Just thought I'd get that one in there.
Yeah.
I'm also teacher, researcher at MMU, and also creative impact lead for the Runnymede Trust.
Fantastic.
Oh,
And I'm a sculptor.
yes.
An
Oh,
artist.
now I'm
He's a
impressed.
sculptor and artist.
Now I am
Yes.
impressed.
And then to my
Were
left,
you not impressed before?
No.
I know I'm going to have my hands full. And to my left, I have the unruly, but also the very, very revered and respected Elizabeth Cameron. Hello, Dame Elizabeth.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am indeed Elizabeth Cameron. And would you like me to address you, darling?
Well, no, address
Well,
the camera, address
yes.
the camera.
So I'm Elizabeth Cameron. I am an equality, diversity and inclusion consultant and lead at the moment for a housing organisation. But my essential job is that I'm an equality, diversity and inclusion consultant and race equality specialist. So I tend to advise organisations on how they should be with their policies around race equality.
And on a serious note, your advice is very good advice.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Excellent
Yeah.
advice. But we're here to smile and to think about the people that came on the Windrush, our parents, our aunts and uncles and family. And I don't know about you, but I had lots of aunts and uncles that had no blood connection to me. Did you have those?
Oh, I did indeed. And you know, you might find out in years to come that they actually did have a blood connection to you.
Well,
maybe a bit closer blood than you thought. So there are some of those stories. But yeah, we have a lot of people who, it was a respect term, wasn't it? You said auntie because if you said auntie, it showed that you understood that this was somebody who you should respect, somebody who's if they decided to tell you off, for example, you should adhere to whatever they've said, you know, and there was a big thing about respect. You know, children were to be seen and not heard. We were put generally in different rooms. You didn't really make much noise when parents were about. And
You didn't go in the front room either.
No,
You did
didn't
not go in the front room.
But let me just take it back. Let's take it back to go forward. First of all, to set the scene, Kevin, Elizabeth and I did not come over on the Windrush. We were born here in the United Kingdom, and our parents and our relatives came over either on the Windrush or some other route. My mum flew in. She basically acted like she was.
Get you.
I know she was a Jamaican.
Stoosh.
She was a Jamaican house in Phuket.
Oh.
She was. But going backwards, we had World War II, and then to actually help rebuild the country, there were these adverts that were in the Jamaica Gleaner and put all around the place because, of course, Jamaica and other places in the Caribbean were part of the Commonwealth. And the mother country, the United Kingdom, stretched out to the Commonwealth to help. They wanted them to come over to help rebuild the country. That was the pitch. That's what they got sold. And they, so royalist and so loyal to the crown that they said, yes, we'll come over. And what was commandeered and refurbished really was the Empire Windrush. That was one of the huge ships that came over, but it wasn't one of the only ships, was it?
No, it wasn't. No.
No. So basically, they came over, and the first one came over in 1948, and that's what this 75th anniversary is all about. Is about the first ship that came over in 1948 and docked at Tilbury. So that voyage, I can't remember how long it was, but basically, everybody knew each other, but there was a community that came together on the voyage over. So they looked out for each other when they got to dry land. So, who in your family came over on the Windrush?
The period, we'll say Windrush period. It was my grandmother on my father's side. She came over and then sent word back to Jamaica for her son to come over, with Uncle Freddie, who was not uncle but uncle.
Okay, you see?
And then he came over and looked after my father here and got him an apprenticeship. And that was what used to happen then. And when he came over, he then met his mother for the first time in I don't know how many years. And then my mother's mother, Adina, she came over. And then,
you've got an Adina.
Have you got an Adina?
We've got she wasn't called Douglas, was she? She wasn't Adina Douglas, was she?
No,
Adina, and I call that Adina.
Adina, yeah.
She best not be your auntie, my auntie best not be your auntie, because this is my
Oh, wait a minute, have I got a red book?
Yeah.
Watch it.
Only people of a certain age have I got a red book.
God,
This is
no.
your life. It's not a Windrush.
Come on.
Well, she sent for her daughter, who was my mum, Lilith, and came over. So Dad came over when he was 17, Mum came over when she was 10. Neither of them knew their parents. And that was quite common, because families were just broken up.
Broken up,
their parents
dispersed.
at all. They'd never
Not really,
seen them
not really. Well, they'd seen them, but when they came over to Jamaica, it was like, well, who is this person? Because they've been living with grandmother or aunties in Jamaica and so on.
Wow.
And what about you, Elizabeth?
That was not my experience at all. So different is that my mum was she of course says she came over on the plane. Although we have this conversation with her now, which is, Mum, did you really come over on the plane? And she still maintains she came over on the plane. But we think she might have come over on a boat. Not a small boat, a big boat like the Windrush, but not the Windrush.
It's a ship,
So
darling.
she was-
It's a ship.
Well, okay, it was a ship. It was a ship. Ship, boat. It flew on the... Did it float on the water?
It did, but,
Yeah, but you have to be careful.
You've got to be
because of
careful.
Banana boats and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well,
Yes.
do you see that?
Yeah.
Boats. That's a big
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
We'll have that conversation another time.
Yes.
This is just about my parents' passage. So going back to the story, my father arrived separately from my mother. My mother was on almost an apprenticeship herself. She was a nurse, and she had been asked to come over to the country to do nursing. My mother was a very intelligent woman and a very learned woman, but she also was a singer. But also, and this is the bit we didn't get to find out about for a while, they'd also had children before the children that were born in the UK. So we didn't know that then.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't born yet. But basically, my mum came first. She left two children. She came over on a nursing,
like a visa, isn't it? Like a
it's a work
What was
visa.
it called? Like a work thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she came over. She still kept that letter, a very important letter, which shows how she was invited into this country. And that was crucially important, because when people there started to be this scandal, not that that's what we're talking about, but it really was confusing for people because, you know, as you say, royalists. My mother is devoted to these royals, and I shouldn't say these, but to the royal family, and it's because they were told, this is your queen, this is your, these are your people, this is your country, And that perception meant that when they came to the UK, it was just still their country. They hadn't made a passage to anywhere. They were coming and helping the mother country. And my father came over much later. He was a labourer. He came over later than my mother, and I think the story goes, little bit of a get-together. Nurses weren't too happy. Nurses said, you can't stay here. And then the two of them set up home together, were married within 6 months. And at 21 years old.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
And I had that marriage certificate.
Yes.
They were married in Preston.
In Preston.
Preston.
Oh, how glamorous.
Yes. I know, right?
So in relation to mine's slightly different. So my granddad, he left Jamaica and went to America because he got a job working with Pan Am, which doesn't exist now, which is Pan American.
Which
is airlines.
Yes, I've seen
Pan
that.
American Airlines, right? And so I'm smiling because my granddad's a bit of a naughty boy, because he used to come back over to Jamaica in a pilot's uniform.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
He never flew a plane in his life. But he did work for Pan Am, but he was like head of catering.
Yes.
But he
And a pilot on the side.
he had put a pilot's uniform on, and he put some money to side, and he did, buy a bar and everything with the money because he got paid really well. And so he said to my mum when she was young, oh, you've got to come over to... she's like, but I've got this invitation to go over to England to be a nurse.
Yes.
And he's going, what do you want to look after other people for? No, you're a qualified hairdresser, because she was a qualified hairdresser. You want to come over to New York? I work at... it wasn't called Kennedy's, but the one that became JFK.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called before. But she said, I work at blah, blah, you can get, there's all these women doing this, that and the other. She went over to New York. And what my granddad wanted was a housemaid.
Oh.
And so my mum put up with that for 3 months, and then she said, well, I might as well go to England and be a qualified nurse and actually, help people who need help.
Yeah.
Because I think she put down that she wanted to work with war veterans, which is what she did, geriatric nursing.
Oh, wow.
So she flew from New York, and they had a layover in Newfoundland. I still don't know where that is.
Oh.
And she came over to the UK, and that's the only thing I know. Newfoundland cold, and she thought, I hope England's not that cold. Big shock. She came over to England in March. And so she was working in the Manchester Royal Infirmary, and she was doing some work extra work in accident and emergency. And then there was this guy who looked a bit like Omar Sharif.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was a bit cheeky, like flirting with her and everything. And he'd had too much to drink, and he'd fallen off a wall and broken his arm. That was my dad. My dad is half Lebanese and half African. So he was born in Beirut. His mum's from Sierra Leone. His dad's from Tyre in the Lebanon. And he was born in Beirut, and his mum left his dad and went over to Sierra Leone and raised him until he was 12. And then his dad wanted him back, because he had about 4 daughters in that time, because that was the only son. Wanted him back to pay for his education. So my dad went back to the Lebanon when he was 12. And then he got a place at Oxford University. I've got some friends from Manchester, good Muslim boy, not supposed to drink, drank, fell off wall, broke arm, met my mum, but she thought he was handsome, but cheeky. Anyway, one thing led to another. Hello. No, they got married before then, but yeah, anyway. But that's kind of my thing. And my mum always blames my granddad for missing out on the Windrush adventure, because that whole community, that getting together. But that doesn't matter, because the stories that some of them talked about, my mum got involved in that, but she was like, oh, I wish I did the voyage. on the ship and, you know, came over and with people. But that didn't matter because she was still embraced, even though she came to the UK via New York, a circuitous route.
Yeah. That's quite an adventure already, isn't it?
It's an adventure already.
But you see, there is this part about this history that they have that, you know, when I look at my dad, you know, sometimes, and I might have said it then, he was just a labourer. But this just a labourer came to a different country where he had nothing and no one. And put down roots, not only put down roots, but prepared himself to be a husband, prepared himself to be a father, at whatever menial amounts of money he was going to make. He was going to be the provider, you know, very traditional thinking of, you know, Jamaicans, if you like. It would have been very much the man is supposed to be looking after his household, even though women worked. So there was no question of women not being able to work. They'd be used to seeing that. But, you know, that they would have the commanding word in the home. That's absolutely the way it was. And my dad was ready for that in every way. You know, it didn't seem to daunt him at all that he, you know, wasn't a professor like you. He wasn't on his way to doing it. He didn't even think that, you know, that further education piece was ever going to be his life. But he knew that what he would do was be a good husband and a good father. And he was determined to be that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and he wasn't daunted. And he reminds me, as he came to London with his grip, you know, eventually travelled from whichever port.
For those who don't understand, a grip is a suitcase.
It is.
I'll translate.
Thank you.
I'll translate.
He came with his grip. And I tell you, the documents I have here, moth-eaten documents, came out of my dad's grip, which by the time we actually could face undoing this grip, which is about 14 years after he died, because we miss my dad still and all the time. He was not a saint, but we still loved him. But we couldn't face looking in this grip, but then, you know, eventually we want to put the story together, and the grip literally fell apart. This grip, because I mean, what it was held together with
reinforced cardboard and paper. If you
reinforced cardboard,
that's what it was. You know, that's what it was. It was reinforced cardboard and paper. Because I know, because I have deconstructed said grip. I've done that already.
Right.
Yes. I've done that already.
There you go.
So let me throw it over to you, because I want to ask both of you I want this to be sort of light-hearted and lovely memories, because sometimes, like you say, it was difficult to go into his suitcase and go through his stuff. It has, and if we've lost our parents, it is extremely difficult to look at their stuff. But before I ask for anything light-hearted that came out of that you know about these Windrush Generation individuals. And this podcast is called "We Are Standing on the Shoulders of Giants." Okay, because we are standing on the shoulder of giants. But I want to ask a painful question. What was your first experience of racism? Over to you, Kevin.
Oh, I was just primed to say something else then.
Because they were shocked. They were shocked.
I really have to flip that another way round. And it's, can I remember a time when there wasn't any racism? Because in order to...
It's really powerful.
It's all I knew. Having been born here and heard my grandparents' stories, how were treated, then hearing my parents' stories, then seeing my mother get spat at in the street because she's black, or dog shit put through the door, our door, or hiding behind the sofa because they were throwing things at the windows. And I don't really know. I mean, racism's always kind of been hand in hand with with me being born here, first generation.
But you're not accepting it, you know, it's not like, that's how it is. You're not accepting it, but you're just saying it was...
I'll tell you, when I realised what it was, is, I don't know if you've had this, I used to have a dream and everything was perfect. Get up, go to school, weekend, you know, go and do shopping with mum and dad and everything, this, that and the other, and everything was just perfect. Heat as well, really hot. And then I would wake up, go in the bathroom, look in the mirror and be shocked that a black person was looking back at me. Because in my dream I wasn't black.
Oh, wow. Wow, yeah. Well, I think...
Have you had...
What I have had that relates to that is, I'll take it from those words, the person looking at me was black.
Yeah.
And I remember being made to know that I was black.
Yeah.
And so you're right.
Yeah.
And I say this actually to people, you know, I talk, you know, I'm an ambassador for Show Racism, the Red Card, and when I do my little talk there, I tend to say that, you know, people, you don't realise a child doesn't see themselves as green, purple, or, you know, polka dot. They are who they are. I was born here.
I was born here.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And you know, I was made to know.
Yeah.
I was different. I was made to know I was different. People separated from me. They said, you don't play with her, she's black.
Yeah.
They don't play with her, she's a blackie Sambo.
Yeah.
You know, I would have been 4, I would think.
Yeah.
Where, you know, it was very much the era of the marmalade jar, the gollywog. There used to be pins that they stuck on their, you know, I think it was like a badge of some kind, but I think it was the actual gollywog badge, and it was made like out of tin.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we didn't.
Oh, you'd like this, Kevin?
No, I didn't say you did, but that's what.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that. There was a story. I remember this damn story. This story incenses me because I love to read. But this story is about a Sambo who ran round the tree or something until he melted into butter or something of the kind. I don't know.
He was called Tar Baby.
What was he? Tar Baby. Gee, all I know is this. I'm going to keep this clean. That is the most damaging, the most hurtful, the most horrific thing to hear children repeatedly be told. That person over there equates to this fufu, and I'll use the word fufu because that means fool in Jamaican patois.
Yeah.
We were thought of as fools, as stupid, as we didn't have any brain, the same level of brain as the same little white children who were there. And it didn't matter how pretty your ribbons were, and my mum put me in some hella pretty ribbons.
Oh yeah,
my sisters all have ribbons.
Pretty ribbons. It didn't matter how pretty our ribbons were. Somebody was going to pull those ribbons out, mess up our hair, put their hands all up in their hair, and we'd come home from school with knotty hair. It'd be told that, I remember being told the earrings had to come out. We had to put a string instead of our earrings. My ears were pieced. Yes, cotton. String. Cotton. Whatever.
Yeah.
Cotton.
Yeah.
I used to walk to school with my two sisters.
So how early is that? I was 4.
Yeah. Well, I was a similar age, so I was at school, and we have you know, like you have a Wendy house.
Oh yeah.
And my mum used to always say, why do they have enamel cups and, you know, like when you're playing tea? Because I always want to, look, we've got tea here. They were enamel cups and saucers, but decorated to look like it was china.
Oh.
Very nice, lovely cups and saucers,
nice.
yeah. So it made it look like we had Royal Albert china or whatever it was. And so I remember I had a little friend called Magruti. She was Asian. And and 2 other friends who were white, and we went into the Wendy house, and there was this girl who I won't say her name, but this girl, she wasn't very nice. I know we were at 4 or 5, and this is learnt behaviour, learnt racism. It's learnt behaviour, because before she was all right. I couldn't understand as a child why she flipped and was being nasty, but it's learnt behaviour. She was told, because she found out afterwards, that she wasn't allowed to play with myself or Margaruti, and that we were not allowed to be in the Wendy house. Now, apparently, her dad, this is what I found out afterwards, apparently her dad had done some construction work in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he came back with more than a tan, basically. He came back from South Africa with certain attitudes, passed it on to his little children. She got one of these cups, right? And she said a word. My dad said, "You're not allowed in here when I'm in here. This is my house, my Wendy house." And she threw, right? She should have been on the rounders team or something, because she threw this cup at me. Remember, it's an enamel cup. She threw this enamel cup at me, and it hit me right here, right, and split my forehead open.
Oh.
Right, blood everywhere, right, and it was like something from Carrie, you know, right, and I just like dived and charged at her, because she made me bleed, so I dived and charged at her, and I got shouted at. Who's bleeding? Who's bleeding? Right. So I got shouted at, and then what they did was got loads. You know that horrible blue tissue. The teacher's got the horrible blue tissue, and like put it on my head, and did not call my parents. Did not call my parents, and I went home with the ugliest plaster on my head. Pass me that there. Just pass me that.
Yes.
This is me going home like that. That was me going home, being picked up, and my mum was like, "What's wrong?" And then I told my mum what happened, and she just charged straight in, and basically had a go at them, and I should have been taken to A&E for stitching, because there was a gash, and to this day I still have the gash in my head, and yeah, so that was really learnt behaviour.
Yes.
But then the thing is, the girl, because she saw all the blood, she started crying.
Oh, yes.
Right? So it's like, oh, XYZ, what's the matter? Hello, black girl here, blood down my face.
Well, you learned that lesson.
I was going to
quickly,
say, learn
don't
that.
you?
Yeah, to play victim
and I was
from
like,
there.
and I thought to myself, my mum and dad gave me a conversation, because I was dual heritage. So my mum gave me the Jamaican conversation, and then my dad gave me another conversation. That whole thing about, I don't know, it was very interesting, about stripping down with words and without touching them, saying stuff in words and particular actions. That kind of like is a psychological thing. It was quite interesting, the angle and the way, but no, I was 4 or 5, and that was my first encounter with racism. But I want to...
It's painful for me to hear.
It's painful. It's painful. It's really, really painful. But let's bring the mood up a little bit. I'm looking at the cutest little baby over there. You've got some great pictures on your iPad, but there's a
come on.
Who is that? Who is that cute baby?
This cute baby is me.
Oh,
you have not changed a bit.
And if you go into any Jamaican front room, you'll probably see these on the wall.
And listen, right, everyone, this is what you need to know.
This is
they
culture.
Coloured them in.
They coloured them in.
They coloured them in.
Yeah.
So we didn't have colour photographs, because we didn't have colour photographs. So we had black and white, but they used to send them somewhere to get coloured in.
And the reason why they used to do that is they used to send the pictures back to Jamaica, all coloured in,
Yeah.
and they were wearing their finest clothes. So that in Jamaica they would think they're earning a load of money.
Yeah.
When in fact the real truth was.
Oh, listen, I've
So
got a
You
wage
go,
slip.
you go without.
I have
Yeah.
a wage slip of my dad's to share with you.
I thought that's what you were.
Yeah,
had
did
it.
you see that?
Yeah.
Well, it's from 1964.
Okay.
It's from 1964. So they've been here 9 years by then, you know, they'd been
Right.
married and done all that. And he was earning, he's got his wage. My dad kept everything. So, you know, this grip has
That's it, yeah.
everything. So 4 hours at 1 shilling and a quarter. What's a quarter of a penny? What's a quarter of a shilling? I don't know. 4 hours.
Old money.
4 hours, no minutes at 1 shilling and a half, 1.5 shillings, and so many minutes. Okay, and so he does 50 hours, 50, and go on. Tell me how much he earns.
18 pounds.
18. You just looked at
I
that.
know.
She didn't know. She didn't know because I'll tell you why she didn't know. Because when you see this thing, what he's paid, he does this thing, and then something gets taken off him. 10 minutes gets taken off him for short time. I imagine that's when you go to the toilet. And Lord knows what that was. 10 minutes for short time. So you must have had to hold yourself all day for 8 hours, right? So that you didn't, because this is money. This is 10pence that's going to get taken off you. So you don't do it. He only gets 10 minutes taken off him after 50 hours work. And he gets a cost of living bonus.
Oh.
Yeah, of 11 shillings and 8pence. So he gets, after national insurance gets taken off him, he pays to his unit. He pays to a savings thing. Savings.
Yeah.
Savings.
He saves money. So out of this now, he saves 10 shillings every week. This man, I just feel to cry. I have to say there are 8 children in my family. At this point in 1964, I was born also. So they had 6 children.
Yeah.
6 children. And my father did with the £1.15 shillings and 4pence deductions, which he pays. What's TA?
I'm just dying to ask you though, Elizabeth.
Is it a union?
Did your parents drop partner?
Oh. 18
Right.
pounds 19.
Right, okay,
So
let me just pause. Right, again, it's not about us. Let's just for the viewers, the crew are just like the crew are like, what?
We'll have to talk about partner.
What is a partner? So basically,
It's finished.
it's the closest thing to a partner I'd say would be a credit union.
Yeah.
Right, so it'd be a credit union, but it was a community-based thing
And it
whereby
used to cause trouble.
It used to cause trouble. And the easiest thing to say, if there was 10 people, there's more than that. 10 people, and you'd be like number one to someone would be number one, and so on. So 10 people, £10, £100. The first person would get £100, but then everyone would keep paying in,
yeah.
and then the next person, it would be their turn. They get the £100 and keep paying in. So it was no interest.
Because we couldn't go to banks. There was no accommodation, nowhere to live, no banks, no nothing.
banks.
So that was our own kind of banking system saving.
That was a banking system.
Okay.
So, like I said, the closest thing I know, especially because my office is in the cooperative building, I know about the credit unions as well, and as partner. But yeah, it'll be, sometimes there'll be trouble. Sometimes someone would get their turn and not fulfil
and not
agreement.
continue dropping the hand.
So you go, where's Maud?
Come on, just pass over that. Not continue, just say the phrase.
Dropping the hand.
Yes,
They didn't drop the hand.
You didn't drop the hand. So, drop the hand. Drop the hand.
Yeah, Maud's gone to Canada, she's not coming back.
Come on, that is right. Didn't drop the hand.
They didn't
to,
drop
this,
the-
to this day, that's a phrase. These phrases
yeah.
are used.
Yeah.
And you know, there's one that always stays with me, and it's when I would come to your house, I would always bring something with me.
Yeah.
Because my mum taught me you don't go to anybody's house with your dry
Dry
hand.
hand.
With your dry
with your
hand.
dry
Don't
hand.
go there with your
Yeah.
dry hand. And
Yeah.
it didn't matter how poor you were, you take something,
Yeah.
take cucumber, take
Yeah.
a slice of cucumber.
But then
take
sometimes,
tea bag.
sometimes, because my auntie
You
Lena was
can't
like
go
this,
with your dry hand.
somebody would go and go, oh, I brought some mangoes for you, and they go,
Mm-hmm.
these are not very good mangoes. These are not very good mangoes at all. Okay.
Oh.
What else have you brought me?
No.
She'd be like that.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
She
Yeah.
went in.
No. Oh,
Well, that's not
my aunt,
usual.
my auntie
That's
Lena,
not usual.
my auntie
Is that
Lena,
your auntie?
my auntie was.
Oh.
She was just
Where was
like.
your auntie? Which island was she from, St. Kitts?
Oh no, she was.
Trinidad?
No.
Trinidad and Tobago, where she come
Jamaica. Jamaica.
Huh?
No, she was
from?
from
I'm teasing now.
Montego
I'm
Bay.
teasing
That
now.
one.
Really?
Mo
Maybe
Bay.
she too posh.
So
Mo
which,
Bay. Nothing was good enough.
so
Oh,
which
dear.
parish?
Except for her Caroline.
Which
Huh?
parish was your mum from? Then?
St Anne's, hence Anne.
My dad was St Anne's.
Yeah.
My
There
mum
was
was St Thomas. White horses.
There was
Mandeville.
Mandeville.
That's where my grandmother was.
Mandeville. So someone-
Manchester.
Yeah, there was Manchester, that's how it was.
Mandeville, yeah.
Manchester, Mandeville, but yeah, St Anne's.
And
So
yours? Which parish?
I
You know
don't
the
know.
parish?
Well, no, St. Andrew.
St. Andrew.
Halfway tree.
Halfway.
Halfway tree.
Oh wait, yeah.
Which
yeah.
is, as I understand it, is the area, is it where Bob Marley came from? Is he around
I think
that?
it might
Yeah,
be.
I think it-
Trenchtown?
yeah.
Trenchtown?
Yeah.
And quickly followed by, Trenchtown didn't used to be like that then, did it?
Yeah,
And the rap stuff
Trenchtown
really
was
here.
hardcore.
Now, perhaps,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
don't think in their time it was, because
No.
I have pictures of the nightclub where my grandfather used to sing, and he was a very famous bass player.
Well, let's catapult to nightclub in Manchester. What's the connection? So, Elizabeth, what is the connection between a nightclub and your family?
Well, my grandfather on my mum's side was a double bass player, and he used to play, he's Freddie Parkins, and he, you know, for anybody who would want to look him up, he used to be on at the Glass Bucket Club in Jamaica, Halfway Tree in Jamaica. And, you know, so many of the Tower Island Hotel people might know. And he used to be on there. My mum used to sing with him. Her sisters used to sing, the Parkins girls. They were very famous. So actually, the way that my parents lived was my father doing this labouring thing. You see these 18 shillings. Well, my mum could earn that in a night.
Wow.
Singing.
Yeah.
And she was discovered singing in the factory she worked at.
Ah.
Yeah, get that. So somebody in Preston, Chorley, Preston, she's working as a coner or whatever a coner is, and somebody says, you know, the working man's club I go to, they're looking for a singer, so, you know, do you want to do a bit? So my mum goes along and does it and earns more in a night than my dad does all week, if you don't mind.
Oh, wow.
So my parents actually didn't need the partner to buy their house.
Ah.
They bought their house and have never had a mortgage, and they bought their houses outright. But let me come to the point. The thing is, so we have this history of everybody being a singer, people, my mum is incredible. She had a very good singing career, but always ran alongside having 8 children, doing a normal job, and which she had to do as well, being a wife, looking after the 8 kids, etc. And they set up the first black club in Manchester. Now I mean high class black club. So I'm not talking about the West Indian Centre, which they were also a very large part of. You know, they helped with the educational programs that used to run on the Sundays, and you know, so Sunday schools, we used to have Saturday educational clubs, but they also had this nightclub, and it is actually where the Sawyer's Arms is. in Deansgate in Manchester.
yeah.
And the irony is that I went marching there to close that building down when it was going to be a lap dancing club.
Oh, yeah.
But at 6 years old, I used to go there and perform. And I remember with my 2 sisters, we would do Sugar. Now, I don't know if you remember the song Sugar.
I do.
Sugar, honey, honey. Oh, yes. That was my highlight. 6 years old. I still remember my little blue mini skirt and my white blouses. Anyway, the Ebony Club in Manchester.
Well, I am doing a Black History Ubuntu Festival at the Plaza Theatre in Stockport on the 15th of October for Black History Month. I know where to come for a bit of entertainment.
Yeah.
Well,
Do
that
you know
was a
what?
link.
Yeah. Let's just pick that up off the floor. Do you know what? I could talk to these two all night, you know.
I was thinking we need to do a series.
We need to do a series.
We need to do a
definitely.
series.
Come back.
I mean,
We'll
I didn't
talk
even
about
touch
it.
Roy Sherland.
And I haven't really talked about mine much.
And
Really.
you haven't
Yeah?
talked
No,
about
not
yours.
really.
Well, do you know
You
what? We'll
haven't.
do another. We'll do another one.
Dominated.
We'll squeeze.
I'm sure they want to know more about mine.
Yeah,
I'm sure
you'll-
they do.
And see your pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Kevin is like a bottomless pit. That's all.
Of what?
Of what? I don't know. Of what? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know if that's a
It's
compliment.
not really appropriate.
It is a compliment. Is it? What's in
There are
your
things
cup
I
there?
don't
'Cause I've got herbal tea. I don't know what you're drinking.
The crew made the tea.
They made the tea.
Yeah.
They did make the tea.
Yeah.
So, this is what I'm going to do to wrap up. Windrush 75th anniversary. We had some characters that came across, against all odds. That it was time to laugh,
Fantastic.
time to love,
Yeah.
time to look after your
Yeah.
family. But at the end of the day, like the phrase says, we can see further because we are standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes.
Amen.
Windrush 75th anniversary. That time, 1948, to 1972, people came across to help rebuild the United Kingdom and this country, and they did a bloody good job.
Definitely.
Respect. And what did Maya Angelou say? She said, and this is only one verse, "You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the dirt, but still, like dust, I rise." This is Caroline Whitehead, Kevin Dalton-Johnson, and Elizabeth Cameron. Thank you.
Bless.